Welcome to the Method Solves part of the partner update call. What we're going to go through in Method Solves is basically we all know Method can solve pretty much anything, but sometimes that's a little overwhelming to know how it solves it, what it solves, and how it's done. So what we're going to do with this Method Solve section is just highlight real partner solutions to partners. And so these are partners, implementing partners to be exact, that will be going through the exact solutions that they have created for different industries. As you guys know, we also serve many different industries, so it's really important to know what type of solutions that we can offer them. Our first one is going to be in the MWD space. This is actually one of our stickiest clients that actually love Method a lot. The reason with that being is that they do have really tight deadlines. They have different departments, production, purchasing, shipping, all of that type of stuff they have to track, which naturally they track it on spreadsheets, pen and paper, just because of how customizable it is. But the typical bottlenecks they go through, I'm sure you guys know from your clients, is the double data entry that they have to do just because they have QuickBooks, now pen and paper, spreadsheet, another system. All these different things cause a lot of problems there. And there's no real-time visibility, especially if we're doing pen and paper. You got to give it to the manager. Maybe the next day you're going to get an update. So really, it stops them from doing their business as much as they can. What Method is able to do is centralize all of this in one system just so they don't have to jump around. It also gives you real-time statuses, updates, and to Courtney's demo today, we're also going to give you guys a little bit more insights and things like that as you go on. But with that being said, our showcase is going to be Anthony Striglia from Striglia Enterprises. He's going to go through one of the clients that he was dealing with that's in the manufacturing warehouse distribution space and how he was able to give them a result that actually made them retire their spreadsheets. I will stop sharing, and Anthony, please go ahead.
Hey everybody, thanks Yemi. I'm going to share my screen, and the first thing you're going to see is the spreadsheet that we've now retired, and I'm going to go through that whole thing so you can understand the workflow that we used to use, and then we are going to go and look at what we built in Method. So let me get my Zoom back up here. This Excel spreadsheet was this company's Lord and Savior for the better part of 2 decades. So this was their master open order spreadsheet. And what they would do on this after they would speak with the customer and get all the specifications for an order, they would create these production files and packets, get approval, and then it would go onto this spreadsheet. That would be it going into production. This customer manufactures ADA signage. Okay, so they manufacture things like restroom signs, stairway signs, floor signs, office signs. So when you walk into a hotel and they have room numbers, think about something like that. So what they would do is when a order would come on here, one row is equivalent to an order. And then each column here, H through K and N, and then some of these over here, are different processes that each order has to go through. And then the X means that it's required, and then the highlighted X means that it's complete for that operation. So you can see we have different machine names here: Vision, Saber, Laser, DC Print, Vinyl. So they're all different processes that the raw material will need to go through to make the finished product. How they would operate in the past, they would take this spreadsheet, they would print 15 copies of this every day on 11 by 17 paper, and they would hand it out to all the machine operators. And all the machine operators every day, when they would basically work off of this Excel spreadsheet that's printed out in front of them. They work off this to know what they're working on. They have a file server, so they'd be able to pull up the files by the order number. And then when they would complete something, they would highlight it with a literal highlighter. They would highlight it. And then at the end of the day, all the 15 or so packets would get collected, and someone would sit down either at the end of the day or the first thing in the morning before the new packets went out, and they would update all the highlights, any notes. Sometimes you get little scribbles over here by some of the managers, any kind of date changes or anything like that. It would all be manually updated. And then
Yikes.
a new round, yeah, yikes is right.
My gosh.
A new
Can
round
you?
of packets would get printed out and go out to the machine operators for the day. And that cycle just ran full circle for, like I said, 20 years. I mean, the spreadsheet itself evolved over time and changed, and maybe a new column gets added. Like, just as an example, this is a new machine. They've only had this machine for maybe 4 or 5 years. So that's a new addition, right? I think they added a third column over here for this miscellaneous stuff. They added one more so they could have things like this. But that was it. And then when things would get shipped out, they would bring it over here. Now, I'm not going to necessarily talk about this too much, but this was just like a historic record of it being on the sheet and then getting off the sheet, off the printed sheet. It's still in this file, and as you can see, shipped out June, July, August, September, October. They haven't used this sheet in months. So it's been really, really good for them. And we've been saving a lot of paper too. So what do they do now? So we've built this production app in Method. That's what this looks like. Okay. When the machine operators log in, this is the only app that they have access to, so they immediately hit this screen. Also, that nobody else sees this big yellow thing. This is for one of my managers. I should just hide that for me, honestly. But this is what they see. We've opted to keep this 10 records a page, so we see our paging right away on the full screen without scrolling at all. And we have all of the machine columns, and we even added some more columns here with some color-coded, these are actually emojis, some color-coded emojis to give you a little bit more insight as to what you're looking at. But then we can go a step further when we click into one of these orders. So they would go through this. Everything's in order by ship date and then machine. So the machine operator, how they would work is they would kind of go, if I'm a vision operator, I would kind of go through and be like, done, not needed, done, not needed. Okay, I have to do this next. And I'd click into here. And now I'm in this order. And I can see all the things that are needed for this order. So I have one piece to cut on this. I can also pull up the production packet from here because we attach it to the sales order record ID when we're releasing it to the production app. So now I can see what I have to create. The machine files themselves will be on our server, but they can access that with these two numbers here. So they kind of already know where to get their machine files, but they can take a look at what's needed, and then they can update their complete or not complete emoji. The numbers right now are solely used for tracking for the machine operators. A lot of times they'll have hundreds of parts to cut instead of just one, and it might span multiple days. So they'll punch in, 200, just so they know where they're at roughly, because a lot of times it's just repetitive parts. We also have a purchasing module over here where they can see what's been purchased and what the status of it is. So one of the big things that they struggled with before was knowing if material is in for this order or not. They keep a lot of stuff in-house, but more specialty stuff they get just in time. They order it as the order gets into production. So now when they open this up, they can see that they're waiting on something in here. They can click in to see what it is. It's paint. Looks like it's a sheet of material that has to be painted. So that's going to have to get sent to paint. This will change to sent to paint. And then when they receive it, they'll be able to mark it as received. And then when you come in here, you'll be able to see that it was received. And the emoji color will change to green. They also have an opportunity down here to put notes in. I've seen them use this for things like vision not needed or waiting on material. So if it's supposed to ship on October 23rd, which is today, there might be a note in here that says still waiting on painted material because it looks like it's not here yet. So then the manager has insight into what these late orders on the list are and what they're doing. Let's see, what else do I want to show? One thing, I wanted to get a picture of this, but I totally forgot. So within their production environment, the actual warehouse that they work in, they have shelving units that span across the entire wall, and they have boxes with all the pieces for all the orders. One thing we did more recently was create this report, which, by the way, if anyone doesn't know, you can use the Method Report Designer to create a report for any size paper. You can change the paper size. So this is I think 3x4 label, and they have a label printer. So they'll print this out on a label, stick it on the box, or it actually goes on an index card and in a little plastic window. And then from the other side of the machine room, you can see where that box is for that order if it exists or if you need to create it. And I believe they put them in numerical order as well, so that they can keep their parts organized by piece, because you have 6 different machines putting pieces in a box, and then once something's ready to assemble, they move it to another section and then it gets assembled. So that's kind of it. There's a couple other things I wanted to show quick. Oh, this is big. So if you look at this, so this is back to the Excel master open orders. They've internally deemed this the moo, as they call it. One of the things that we did to help people adjust and be able to kind of work this side by side was add that report to method. It gets generated using all the data in method. Nobody needs to update it, but it's just a visually similar report to what they were using. I still do have maybe two people that print this out because they just like to work off this paper. And they're free to do that if they want. But this report is really cool. A lot of dynamic stuff in here. You can see that some of these projects get highlighted different colors. You can see we have a lot of the same columns we had in the Excel. Number of production days, date received to production, the ship date. If it's highlighted red, it must ship. It's very important that it ships that date for whatever reason. The sign industry is funny. A lot of times there'll be something like a final inspection. ADA signs are required. If the final inspection is scheduled, then they need to have their signs with enough time to install them to pass their final inspection, or they're not going to get their occupancy certificate. And then we have some of these miscellaneous columns for, some of these other little notes. It's not quite as in depth as just being able to freely type in these columns, but we chose paint, purchasing, and slats were the three important things that they wanted to highlight and be aware of on the automatic move. And then install date. And then we highlight pink anything that was added that day. So today's the 23rd. So we have the 23rd here. Or maybe that day or after because we have the 29th. Not sure how that date got on there. 23rd, 23rd, 24th. Interesting. I'll have to take a look at that logic. Actually, no, I don't think it uses the date. I think it just uses the fact that it's new today.
So
But I don't.
Anthony, I'm sorry to interrupt, but are you importing this or are you recreating it, or how is this getting
Yeah,
in the method?
yeah, good questions. Are you asking about the data
Yeah.
here?
No, the import, yeah, the move thing you were just demoing.
So this is just a PDF report that's coming out of the report designer. It
Oh, okay.
uses it uses all the data from
Yeah, okay.
this app to generate it. And
You
then the
can't
way,
tell I'm interested in what doing here. This is awesome.
yeah, this came out really good.
I like it.
Let's see, a lot of chats going here. Oh,
Yeah, I have a
nothing.
question.
Oh, one question at the bottom. Where are we keeping track of inventory? Good question. Great question. Whenever I demo this, that's the first question someone asks. Does it do inventory? Can you keep track of inventory? So this customer historically, as you can see by their Excel printout that they used to use, has never tracked inventory on a job level like that. So what they do is they do monthly, I think, inventories, and then they take their purchases and they take their purchases and add it to inventory and deduct what's not there anymore. So they're just literally doing inventory by seeing what they used as a whole. They're not doing it on a job by job basis. We do want to add inventory to this at some point. We had a system about 5, 6 years ago before we switched them to method that had the ability to do inventory tracking and time tracking on the jobs, and it never worked for them. It was too much the way it was set up for their machine operators. In fairness, it was a pretty poor program. It was really, really bad. But yes, I would love to put in here, workplace signs, and then, hey, I am gonna add, a sheet of blue row mark to this as what I'm using for inventory for this job, something like that. It is something we want to do, and it is possible, but we just haven't got that far yet with inventory. Any other questions? Did I think I hit everything? There's a couple other like miscellaneous reports that some of the operators like to use that just kind of list orders, just a different way to look at things, barcodes and or QR codes. That's a great question. I did start to look into that at one point. I believe there is a barcode font in the report designer. And that's just in case anyone doesn't know, a barcode is literally just a font. And yes, I believe we do have access to that in the report designer. There may even be just a barcode item that you can drag over to it. I haven't played around with it too much, but I do believe it's possible. QR codes, I'm not sure about. I would venture to say no, but I've never looked into a QR code.
Anthony, you mentioned that they've been using the spreadsheet for 20 years. Did you run across resistance to the modernization, change management, chaos, or anything?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Very interesting question, because I did say that they tried to implement a program in the past, and it, like, to your point, the resistance killed it. There was so much hesitation. It wasted so much time for the machine operators. It wasn't fluid. It didn't work for them. It didn't kind of match what they were doing. And within, I would say, a year of really trying and trying and trying, the productivity went way down because it took so much time to use the software, and they basically resisted themselves away from it from they just threw it in the trash. They were just done with it. When we did this, I think everyone's initial gut reaction was like, oh my God, not another program. Like, can we just highlight? Like, how long does it take to take my highlighter and just done? I did that job. Like,
Yeah.
that's what they're used to doing. Like, I did that. But when they kind of got in and started using it, we did a couple training sessions. We've had very few changes since we actually started doing like our introduction and training. The biggest change we made from the introduction and initial training was just adding the count. We just added the count field. Everything else that stayed the same. We had the purchasing attachments, the checkbox, the notes, and then we added the ship date sales order change audit because the people in production hate when ship dates change. They're like, well, this was October 2nd. Why is it September 17th now? So when it goes backwards, they get mad. When it goes forwards, they could care less. October 2nd to October 23rd. They don't care if it gets pushed out. They care if it gets brought back closer to then, because then they're like, well, what happened? So we added that and we added the counts. Other than that, once they got in after their training, started using it, realized that they were able to just, punch in a number like this and go in and say, yep, I did that. And then you'll see that changes to green. I mean, that's almost as easy as highlighting. Really, they loved it and they still love it. And they were using it side by side with the printouts for probably, I would say, 3 months. And then one day they were just like, yeah, we're good. We don't even need the printouts anymore. We're so good. And that was really good. That was really good when it was a little stressful that first week. Because it was like, we don't even have a backup now. But I think we kind of proved it throughout a couple months of side by side testing, and then now they're off and running with just methods. So yeah, good
I have a
question.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are are they using QuickBooks at least? Like, are they also using QuickBooks, or is it
Yes.
just?
Yep. They're using QuickBooks. They're syncing with QuickBooks, and nothing that we're doing here is transactional. It's just tracking. If we
Okay.
were to
Yeah.
do inventory stuff, we would start to get into some transactional stuff, and some, maybe work in progress inventory and some job costing and stuff like that. But right now, as far as this production app goes, nothing is transactional, so nothing actually here gets synced with QuickBooks. All these fields are totally
Okay.
custom. They only live in method. But this
So,
does run off the sales order table. It kind of started small and then just blew up. Hindsight's 2020. There should be a totally separate kind of main table for this, but everything kind of runs off the sales order table. But it works. We got everything to work.
Well, your purchasing is off of QuickBooks, though, isn't it?
Yes, yes. The purchasing is off of QuickBooks. However, the receiving that they see in here is separate from the
Yeah.
received material in QuickBooks. Yeah,
And
because
then
we
you
I
don't.
said
love
something, I think you just said something about it's based off of one flat table.
sales orders.
This is mostly based off of one. This grid obviously is based off of one flat table. This is all based off the sales order table. And when you come into
Okay.
an order, there's some other things in here. Purchasing has its own table. The attachments are the attachments from the sales order. The notes are their own table. The ship date audit's its own table. But the base table, we're still using sales orders, which if I were to do this again, I would make it a separate table because it would just give not
I always
necessarily more flexibility, but it would just be cleaner.
I always struggle with, do I use a regular table that's already there, build on it, or do I have my own table? And then
Yeah, and
I also struggle on going around, spin my wheels on, well, yeah, but once I get in there, do I need the other subsidiary tables, master tables? And it just gets,
yeah.
I'm glad
So
you
it
kept
worked
it
out
simple.
good. It's pretty efficient with, adding fields to tables. I don't know does anyone know if there's a limit to the number of fields you can have on a table?
I don't think there's any
I
limit.
haven't hit it. I've probably added 50 fields to the sales order table for this app, and it's worked flawlessly. I don't have any kind of slowness or hiccups or anything anywhere in the system.
Limits
Yeah, I
exist.
agree. I agree, Leif. No, we don't want a field limit. That would really hinder some things.
The limits only exist as a SQL server.
Okay. Is that the back end of method SQL?
Yes,
Okay.
SQL server.
Very cool.
Uh,
And does SQL have a field limit?
You'd have to look it
SQL
up.
Server?
You'd have to look it up. I didn't look it up, but
No worries.
on the camera. So there is, yeah, you just have to look up T-SQL.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it's very helpful to understand. It's very helpful to understand as you're building,
Yeah,
because you can go look up and kind of predict what's happening on the back end.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm very well versed in SQL. I agree that it definitely is important to know if you're going to do any kind of table modifications or customization in method.
And one other thing, I would, just like you said, when you did this once and you would do it differently again, we've had some luck where we start with all the new fields in a new table, and we just associate it with a foreign key. I think they're, like a link, a drop down and a link. So then what you have is a less cluttered table of
Main
everything
table,
you have, but
yeah.
you automatically force everything from the other one, from like the QuickBooks table in, so it's easier to read.
Yes, that's exactly how I would do it if I were to do it again. Yeah. I would link it
It
to
also
the
helps to
that's
know
we
what
recommend.
tables you've created and what fields you've created in the inherent
Yes.
tables, so you can track them and to know if you can get rid of the fields
Right.
later.
Because we just don't have the tools anymore. Well, we don't have the tools to see, really and truly how to find the schema that we're looking for, that we created. It's just a lot of noise.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Fantastic.
Okay, guys.
Whenever
I
I
think
create a field, just a tip is that I used to put just like my initials before it, like YW, whatever,
Oh, so they're
field
all in
I'm
the same
creating.
spot.
Yeah, it's like they're all in the same area and I know which ones I added and which ones I didn't add.
Oh, that's a good idea. I gotta start doing that. It's funny, I do that for reports. When I build a new report, I put SE in front of it. So all my reports are right at the top of the report page. But I never thought of doing that with fields.
Does anybody know if we have access to the old API, like the original methods, original API, or is it just their newest version?
I don't think
you
the
know?
old API stopped working, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, so like if we had so if you use like the SOAP based API, because there were a few things in there that aren't in the new one. Like you could get a table, and find out what the fields were. Can we do that with a new one? I don't think so. Have you done that, Matt?
I don't know that I've tried on the new one offhand, but I do believe the old stuff is still there.
Yeah. So Anthony, if that were the case, then you had a little tool, then you could actually go in, because didn't we used to be able to create fields and stuff through the API, the old one? It's been a long time.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah. So you could do that and then better see your schema and what you were working on.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just looking at some of the API documentation. I don't know the REST API, that's different than a SOAP API, saying it's more limited.
Yeah, the REST API was what?
Yeah, this is just to read and write and delete records. That's all you can do, it looks like.
Right, but the old SOAP API, you could do more. Any case, just sharing, just sharing. I know Matt has done a tremendous amount around that.
One or two things.
Yeah, that's cool. I know, was it you, Leif, that built a Ring Central API? If anyone doesn't know about that, I've had a few customers ask about if Method integrates with any kind of calling system. I know that there is one out there floating around somewhere with Ring Central. I'm sure that other platforms can be integrated, but
it is a thing, Ring to Method, that we worked on for a while and used to some degree. That'll pop up the customer information, have like a Go dashboard of like taking notes, converting estimates, sales orders, all that type of stuff.
It's pretty bespoke, though.
What? Yes, when the phone rings, more or less.
I've got just happened to working with a customer right now that does a phone service. Might be nice.
Yeah. There you go. Maybe you can link up with Leif for that.
Yeah, and I got a couple sign people that I may want to talk to you about.
Yeah,
They just
yeah,
mining.
please reach out, reach out. I'm on the well, I'll put my email in the chat just so everyone has it. And
Yeah, I'd be interested in
I'm
talking
on
to
the
you
partner
further.
portal if you want to find me that way.
Perfect. So just to end our first method solves of the year, I just want to say if you can track it, you can absolutely solve it with method. And especially with the NWD clients, if you ever hear them, complaining about spreadsheets or printing jobs or anything like that, just know method is able to replace all of that with a centralized system, of course, out of stock, but also with the help of Anthony or if any of our partners are able to implement, you can actually give them a custom solution as well. We're going to have method solve sessions every partner update call. So if you are interested in showcasing your solutions, please let us know. And as for Anthony's information, we will send this out in tomorrow's recap and put Anthony's information in there. So feel free to reach out to him if you found his solution very useful.